Hey YouTube, in this video I've got an unboxing of the Moyu Huanying. So today I'm going to be unboxing Moyu's first ever cube. So this cube came out in 2013 and you can't really find it anywhere anymore. But I got lucky because on the speed solving forums there was somebody who was giving one away for free and I just had to pay shipping. So I still remember when this cube came out, and I was a pretty new cuber at the time, and I didn't actually get one. The first Moyu cube I ever got was a Moyu Weilong, which I believe was their second cube ever. But this was the first ever 3x3 that they made, and the first ever cube to really put Moyu on the map. This is it, the Moyu Huanying. So in here we've also got an Eastsheen 4x4, which I think I'll be taking a look at in a different video, so we'll put that to the side for now. Alright, here is the Moyu Huanying. It looks really nice. I think this was re-stickered by the person who's selling it, because these do not look like standard Moyu stickers. It just looks awesome. Anyway, let's get into first turns. Wow. I just got taken back to 2013. I can remember how this would have felt at the time. Wow. Yeah, I remember trying the Moyu Huanying at my third competition. One of my friends had it. And I never got one, like I said, but I remember feeling it and just being like, wow, this is pretty good. Oh, we got a corner twist there. And another one. So in case you couldn't tell, this thing is loud. Let's move the mic right here and really hear it up close. Yeah, so this thing really is one of the noisiest cubes I've ever had. So the reason this cube is so influential, besides just being the first cube by Moyu, which is obviously now a huge cubing company, is because at the time there weren't that many good speed cubes. And the biggest speed cube for a few years was the Dayan Zanshi. And so I've had this one for a while, since around when I started cubing. And this cube really was great, but it has all the hallmarks of a really old cube design. Like, it's super blocky, it pops a lot, things like that. But it does turn really fast and really nicely. Anyway, the Dayan Zanshi came out in 2011, and Dayan was basically cornering the cube market for a couple of years there. And then in 2013, a new brand came around called Fangxi and made this Fangxi Shuangren. And so this has the hallmarks of a more modern speed cube. It doesn't pop. These pieces have a really nice anti-popping mechanism that was super new at the time. And it was significantly less blocky. But you'd still get corner twists and things like that. And of course, this was way before magnets were used in speed cubes. And so anyway, the Fangxi Shuangren came out in early 2013, and everybody was saying this could be the Zanshi killer. And that was a crazy idea. So the Moyu Huanying was basically the second cube that people thought could be the Zanshi killer. So this and the Shuangren were kind of two new brands that had just come on the scene, and people were thinking that they could totally revolutionize cubing hardware. Fangxi, in the end, not so much, but Moyu definitely did, and this is a really cool starting point for them. And so of course after this, Moyu went on to create some super influential cubes like the Weilong V1, the Aolong V1, the Weilong GTS, which I can't find right now, the GTS 2M, the GTS 3M, the WRM 2020, the list goes on. You all know Moyu cubes. But this was really what started it all, and honestly, I can see why. This is a really good cube for the time, and I think it has been pretty forgotten since this came out because Moyu overshadowed it with so many more important cubes. But this thing is really nice, and I'm having a good time turning it. And right in the beginning of this, I got a huge wave of nostalgia for 2013 and just feeling like, wow, this cube is new and exciting and super fun. So let's check out the mechanism a bit. So yeah, it's got pretty basic edge pieces here, and keep in mind that this was a flagship cube at the time, but these edge pieces kind of look like a budget cube from nowadays. And the corner pieces are super hollow, I forgot about that. Look at these corner pieces. There's so much space in there, that's why it's so noisy. And yeah, here's the edge piece too, up close. The core is nothing particularly new or surprising, even at the time, but yeah, everything here looks like it has the hallmarks of a 2013 cube, or a modern budget cube. So anyway, I'm curious how this cube holds up to cubes of today. So currently I average around 10 seconds on 3x3, and I'm just gonna do an average of 12 now and see what I get on here, and see how it compares. I'm also gonna do some commentary along with it, so hopefully you guys won't be bored. Anyway, let's go to the solves. So I've been messing around with this cube a lot today, and it's actually really fun. So from an actual speed cube perspective, the pros of this thing are that it's really light and it has a super unique turning style, which actually forces me to turn a lot more carefully than I usually do. As far as cons go, it is a super noisy cube like I mentioned, which could be annoying if you're solving it near somebody. And it also has pops and corner twists, and the edges do these weird sort of half pops, where when I'm putting the cube back together after a pop, the edges don't quite go in all the way, and I need to perfectly align them with the corners next to them. It's really frustrating, and obviously it only happens when the cube is actually popping, but it's not really a great feature. One other thing I noticed the day I got this cube was that I picked it up casually with one hand while I was on my computer at one point in the day, and the lack of magnets was immediately super jarring. Of course, I used non-magnetic cubes for the first 4 or 5 years of my cubing career because magnetic cubes just didn't exist, but since we've gotten them, it's really become a necessity for me, at least with one-handed. With one-handed solving, non-magnetic cubes just really don't have the stability that I find myself needing nowadays. And so trying to turn the Moyu Huanying with one hand was honestly a terrible experience, but with two hands, it felt totally fine. And so maybe by now you can tell that these solves that I've been showing so far are actually pretty close to my average. And I think the reason for that is sort of what I mentioned earlier. The super light and unique turning style makes it so I have to turn a little bit slower and a little bit more carefully, which makes my solves have a lot less pauses because I can look ahead better. And so I would say on average, these solves had fewer pauses than my normal solves, but they also had more lockups than my normal solves, so there's kind of a trade-off there. And at the end of the day, I still got slightly worse times on this cube than I would on my main, for example, but like I was saying, I average around low 10s on a normal speed cube, and this average had a decent amount of 10s and 11s, and spoiler alert, even a couple sub-10s at the end of the average. Now, sub-10 solves aren't anything super surprising for me on my main, but I was really excited to get them on this cube. So obviously, modern hardware is significantly more pleasurable to turn on, and I obviously wouldn't use a Huanying in comp, but it did actually add something good to my solves instead of just making them objectively worse. It really did help me to look ahead and have smoother solutions. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the actual cube, and if you'll let me, I'd kinda like to tell a story about one of my memories with this cube from a long time ago. I still remember I was a huge fan of Crazy Bad Cubers videos back then, and I remember being super excited when he unboxed the Fangshi Shuangren and said that it might be better than the Zanshi, and I still remember seeing in my YouTube recommended, pretty soon after that Fangshi unboxing, a Moyu Huanying unboxing, and I remember just thinking to myself, what the heck is Moyu? But at the same time, I was super excited to see where cube hardware might be going, and I remember clicking on the video and just still thinking Moyu Huanying sounded so weird and like such a strange concept of a cube name, but I was impressed from the video and it really seemed like a cube that could potentially beat the Zanshi. And so anyway, that's a memory that I've always had since then. I still remember the exact moment I first heard of Moyu, and I feel like this is a really nice way to wrap up that story, finally getting my hands on that cube 8 years later. Huge shout out to the person on Speed Solving forums who was giving this away for free. It really made my day to get it, and I'm super happy to have it in my collection. Anyway, that's about it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on my next video. Everything has fallen.